My name is Kasy Long and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am here today to talk to you about poetry because it is National Poetry Month, and I want to talk to you specifically about writing a poetry chapbook or a small collection of poetry. If you aren't aware, I have a poetry book called Boats Against the Current. You can find this on Amazon or my website, kasylongauthor.com. I want to talk to you about writing poetry books. It seems kind of simple when you say, oh, a poetry book. It's not a full-length novel. You aren't writing characters. You don't have to have a plot. There isn't a climax. There's no resolution that you need to figure out. It doesn't have to be 200, 300 pages. No, that is true. But there's still so much involved in writing a poetry book. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need for a poetry book, you need poems. Surprising, right? To write a poetry book, you need some poems. How many poems do you need? Now that is really up to you. A full-length poetry book is about 40 to 100 pages. A chapbook is about 20 to 40 pages. So it's a shorter version of a full-length poetry book. Think of it in the terms of a full-length novel, and then there are novellas, which are shorter books. That's what a chapbook is. It's a shorter version of a poetry book. Now, this book right here, Boats Against the Current, it's 46 pages. So it's right there. It's a full-length poetry book. It's on the, shorter end of a full-length poetry book, but it is a full-length book. So you have your poems. Great. What's next? Now, I think the next step should be that you should try to publish your work in a literary journal or magazine. There are so many journals out there. There are online journals, print journals. Just to do a little plug-in for myself, I am the editor of a literary journal called Remington Review, and we publish poetry. We publish 2 times a year, a spring and fall issue. We publish poets from all over the world. And so it really does help to get your work out there, get yourself established as a poet. Start publishing your work in literary journals. That definitely helps you start to learn more about poetry, the process of writing poetry, and sharing your work with others. It's also really helpful if you have a poetry workshop where you can share your work with other poets, get their feedback, so you can start to do revisions. It's very similar to writing fiction or nonfiction, whatever you write. It's the same thing. You want to share your work with others. You want to share your poems, see if there's anything you can improve on certain lines or the form of a poem. Well, maybe it would work in a different form, or you're writing in verse with rhyming. Maybe it would work better as a free verse poem. You need to share your work with other poets so you can get that feedback, revise your work, and really polish your poems. So once you've done all of that, you're thinking, okay, now what do I do? I have 40, 50 poems that I'm really proud about, and I've submitted some to literary journals. They've been published in some. I've shared it with others. What do I do now to have a poetry book? I self-published this book on Amazon KDP. I'm going to do a whole other video about the Amazon KDP process sometime, but I decided to self-publish this poetry book. Now, obviously, there are poetry contests, poetry publications where you can submit your poetry there for the chance to have your work published as a book through those press. But if you want to do the self-publishing route, here's what you need to do. What I really want you to learn from this video is how to lay out your poetry book, how to have the format, how to have one poem flow to the next, how to have a certain layout to your poetry book. For example, my poetry book, it begins with poems about the ocean and the sea, and then it moves into poems about the moon, because the moon is related to the sea with the waves and the tide. And then I gradually move into some love poems that are about moonlight, everything. And then I move into poems about nostalgia and childhood memories. I really try to have an aesthetic, natural flow to these poems. I want one poem to go to the next in a natural, it seems like they're just one poem ends, the other begins, very seamless. The best way that I can describe it, and I heard this a long time ago, is that you want to organize your poetry book like it's a mixtape. Like you're putting together a mixtape, you want one song to be here, you want the next song that kind of relates to each other. Okay, you put that one next. And you keep going until you have a full-length poetry book. And there's a natural progression. The poems flow from one to the other. There's a nice aesthetic across all the poems. It just reads like it's one poem, essentially. Like it just keeps going and going and going. There's a natural rhythm to these poems. That's what you want to do with your poetry book. And those are the best type of poetry books, where one poem ends, the next begins, and they share common themes. They are having a conversation with each other. These poems should be talking. They should be related to each other, moving together, having certain rhythm throughout here. That is what you want to do when you're putting together your poetry book. So once you have all your poems together, really spend time focusing on the layout and the order that you want your poems to appear, how they are talking, how they are communicating, the different themes, how are they relating to each other. That will make a stronger poetry book that is more aesthetically pleasing, and it will just read as one natural poem. It really will. For me personally, when I was putting together my poetry book, I printed out all of the poems and I laid them out before me. I had all the poems. I was like, okay, this one is about this topic. This one is about the sea. This one is about the moon. Okay, there's a common theme here. Okay, so this poem would go well following this one. And I physically lay them out. I think I spread them out on the floor. It's like, okay, here we go, here we go, here we go, until I was left with this book. And I was really happy with the natural progression of it, that these poems are communicating together. They are talking. They have a aesthetic, thematic interest with each other. That's what you want for your book. So once you've done that, you're really ready to go. Now you need to just start laying out your poetry book, formatting it. I can do a whole separate video about Amazon KDP and how to publish your work on Amazon. But you put your book together, design a cover. I really love my cover. This is really pretty, with the boats against the current and a ship that is definitely struggling. It's fighting back against the waves. That's what I wanted. And then you're ready. You're ready to publish your poetry book. So I hope that helps you, gives you some advice and tips, and you will put together a fabulous poetry book. If you have written a poetry book, let me know the title. Put that in the comments. Let me know. I'm always interested in reading some new poetry books, especially from fellow independent self-published authors. I would love to support you. So let me know. Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with another video. And until then, take care.